We're back here on 110 Daily. It's the holiday season, Chris. So we decided to do a special edition of our weekly baseball segment. We're going to ask Baseball Santa for three things.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of things to ask for in the baseball world. It's not as much as I love it. It's not a perfect. It's not a perfect situation all the time. It's not a perfect system. Free agency, not a perfect system. The way that money's spent, it's not always a perfect system. So there are lots of things to ask Santa for. I'm looking forward to a discussion about some things we like in the new year.
My first request is that we stop experimenting with this idea of throwing runners on second base in extra innings.
Oh yes, oh yeah. Okay, yep. You got me on board.
First of all, we just need to make a decision. I don't. Maybe you can shed some more light on this, but I don't get what we're learning from continuing to try it in the minors
Hmm.
and experimenting with it. Either
Yeah.
we've seen it in action.
Right.
Either we're going to do it or we're not. That's part one. And part two, here's my solution.
Okay.
Because I think you're with me. I don't like that it fundamentally changes the strategy in the game. By
Hmm.
just in 10th inning, you start with a runner on second. So how about we take a play out of college football's book and
Hmm.
say something like, starting in the 12th inning,
Hmm.
you give those extra innings, the 10th, the 11th, or the 15th inning, whatever inning you want it to be.
Hmm.
But do what they do with the 2 point conversions in overtime, where starting in the third overtime, you have to go for two. Give them a chance to play it out traditionally, and then obviously we can't let these games go on forever. I get that part of it. So I'm not
Hmm.
opposed later on, but I am opposed to it in the 10th inning. So my specific request is that we pick an inning later on.
Okay.
We give ourselves two, three, four, five extra innings to see if somebody can score traditionally. But we make sure, or at least work toward hoping and making it less likely that we go 18 innings, 26 innings, whatever it might be.
Yeah. As far as the coming to a decision, that's one of the things that bothers me a lot, along with so many other things that we don't have decisions on, like the universal DH, like the three batter minimum. Some of these rules that were put in place, um, some of them that baseball has been trending toward and then implemented for the shortened season on an interim basis for the season. We don't know if they're going to continue or not. There's a negotiation potentially, or there is going to be a negotiation for the next collective bargaining agreement. That's not going to begin until 2022. So then it's a matter of you're trying to figure that out or maybe start thinking about that. But also, it fits into a theme of we don't know what's happening. We don't know what the rules are going to be for the season that is beginning in just a couple of months. We don't know whether there's going to be universal DH. We don't know all these different things. And one of them is the rule on the runner on second thing. And I was reading, I think it was just yesterday, a story. I don't remember where it was, either maybe Yahoo or The Athletic. And it was a discussion, a survey of different managers on some of these different topics, the three batter minimum, the universal DH. And some of them had a lot more support than others. It seems like more and more managers are coming around on some of the things like the universal DH, but the runner on second one seems to be very still. I've seen some managers. I saw a couple managers. I can't remember who it was. Say that they're okay with it now, like because it doesn't tax their bullpen as much, and
Mm-hmm.
they're willing to give it a shot. And then I see some managers who are still very much opposed to it. Um, it's interesting because I coming into this year, the shortened season when they said they were going to do that, I wasn't a fan. I'm still not a fan. I understood why they did it in 2020. I'm still not sold on them doing it moving forward. I think it's an interesting idea of them trying to of what you said about starting it at a later inning, saying the 12th inning we do this. I feel like realistically it's probably not going to happen, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to predict anything that baseball's going to do when it comes to rules changes because it's all kind of wild. But
Hey, it's a wish list. We can ask for
it's
whatever
a
we
wish list.
want.
It's a wish list. That's right. We can't ask for whatever. We're not here to play what's baseball going to do because that's not nearly as fun of a game. It's what we want. And I'm with you. I don't want it to start. I want a resolution. Number one, I'm with you, and I would prefer that if we insist that we're going to do it, the runner on second thing that we don't start it in the 10th inning. So I'm with you there. Um, my first wish list item is that an NL Central team decides to actually get better. That is my wish list. The NL Central has been a good division. The Pirates have not been good for a while, but the Reds have been emerging, and last year in particular. Now they didn't quite get to where everybody thought they should be, and the Brewers are kind of hanging around there. And then you've had the Cubs, obviously, have been good. The Cardinals have been good year after year, but then not great. And all of a sudden now, as someone who pays attention to the NL Central more than any other division, nobody wants to win. Nobody wants to step up and actually be good, right? You had the Cubs; they're trying to cut payroll. We are It's sort of an assumption at this point that somebody's going to get traded this offseason. It's hard to imagine it. I don't know how. It's not impossible, but I'm not sure how we look at this team in spring training. Should they make a trade or two? Should they trade away Chris Bryant and or something like that? And we look at them and say, oh well, no, but they're a better team now. I don't see how that's going to necessarily happen. It's possible. There's rumors about you Darvish being traded. There's all sorts of stuff. So I'm not sure how the Cubs are going to get better. Cardinals don't want to spend money. You have the Reds, who apparently are listening to offers and to entertaining trading every good player on the roster. They've already they already are going to lose Trevor Bauer. Most it looks almost certain that that's going to happen. They got rid of both their closers. They had two closers. They got rid of both of them, and apparently they're listening on Mike Moustakas and Nick Castellanos and also Eugenio Suarez and maybe Luis Castillo and also Sonny Gray. And maybe they don't do any of those things, but when there's that many rumors about everybody who you're trying to get rid of, everybody who you're entertaining offers on, and very little rumors connecting you to any good trades or free agents, it's kind of a theme. It's kind of builds a picture.
Yep.
Even if they don't end up trading everybody, it builds a picture of where they're at and what they're prioritizing. And then you have the Pirates, who are still in full rebuild mode. It's just sort of a mess. No team is willing to make the move. Like, the Reds could be one big move away, the Cardinals could be one big move away from being a contender in that division, and we're just sort of like stuck, because I guess the idea is, well, if no team's stepping up to be good, then we're just kind of in the mix, even if we don't do
Right.
anything.
We don't have to either.
We don't have to either. Yeah, it's like, well, the Reds are tearing down, the Cubs don't want to spend money, so if I'm the Cardinals, I don't know if we need to spend money. But it's like, well, if you do spend money, then you're going to be the favorite in that division if you add George Springer. But no. So my wish list, one of my wish list items, is that somebody in the NL Central will step up and try to win. And it's sort of a bigger theme too. There are a few teams who've made moves so far this offseason to indicate that they want to actually spend to get better, but not nearly enough. Obviously, it's going to have to happen at some point. A lot of these free agents have to go off the board. They're going to go somewhere. But I just want to see more teams actually commit to trying to improve their rosters, even if it means spending a bit of money.
My second thing on my wish list is related to that, and it's that the Angels signed Trevor Bauer.
Ah, yes, I will say that you should continue a second. I said this is one of mine too. I said the Angels give Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon some real support this offseason, and it would be in the form of pitching. So go on.
Yes, for two reasons. One, we can't have the Angels continuing to waste Mike Trout's prime with bad to competent baseball teams.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying. They signed Albert Pujols. They signed Anthony Rendon. It's not like they won't spend money, but they aren't spending money in the right ways, and that pitching staff is still a mess, which is where Bauer comes in. And two, the idea of low key, easygoing, quiet Mike Trout and Trevor Bauer on the same team that theoretically would be very good
Mm-hmm.
is very amusing to me. So I want this not
Mm-hmm.
only for Mike Trout and for the Angels to be rewarded for the money that they have spent and to just go all the way and continue to
Yeah.
spend until your roster is able to compete. But also, I just want the idea of Trevor Bauer and Mike Trout being the headline guys on the same team in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that would be so amusing because, right, you have Trevor Bauer, who's constantly, for whether you think he's just this incredible guy who speaks his mind, or someone who is just a bit too much, or whatever your opinion of his personality, he's certainly a big figure, a vocal
Right.
figure in several ways. And you have Mike Trout, who just kind of is like this quiet superstar. And the idea that the headlines that will be coming out of there if he signs with them are going to be about what he said, rather than Mike Trout just like, chugging along, having an MVP season, and you know, it would be very amusing. But yeah, it's certainly a good point for the amusing reason, and also, so yeah, I'll just kind of tack onto this as my second point as well. It's from an amusing standpoint. Of course, it would be very fun. Also, from the standpoint of like that's their problem, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
is the pitching. Like it's bad. Like I mean, I've cited this number of stories. We've talked about it here on the air. I think like the rotation aside from Dylan Bundy was I don't know like a 5.78 ERA or something absurd. They blew the most saves in baseball. Like it's pitching that needs to be fixed. Like they have Rendon, they have Otani, they have uh, Trout, they have some hitters that are they have oh, I'm blanking. They have some infielders. I'm blanking on the Fletcher who had a breakout year. They've got some guys. It's interesting because it's clearly pitching that they need, and so Trevor Bauer could be a great fit. But it's also part of their problem is that they're too top heavy. So maybe that means that it's not a good. I mean, I would love to
Right.
see it. It's certainly on my wish list as well. It's just interesting because like if it doesn't work out, if he reverts back to the Trevor Bauer of a few years ago, where he throws a lot of innings, gets a lot of strikeouts, but posts a 4.5 ERA, which is possible, 4.4, 4.3 ERA, then all of a sudden you're not gonna be able to spend any more money to get more reinforcements if you're paying that much to the core three guys and they're not getting it done. So,
Right.
um, but anyway, I shouldn't go off. This is a wish list. We're trying to be happy and optimistic. I would love to see that. I'd be curious to see how that all plays out for all those reasons. Does it work? And how fun is it to see that happen? So I'm with you there. Um, I am going to go with one of my other items for my wish list is this one's pretty simple. I just don't want to wait till the end of January or early February to see one of the big free agents sign.
Mm.
I just don't want to say. I mean, we're going to have signings, but like it's very clear at this point, right? The winter meetings came and went, and we did not have any big signings, right? Ramito, Bauer, Springer, LeMahieu, Brantley, Turner. They're still
Any
free
of the top
agents.
free agents, right?
Any of the top free agents. I think I'm trying to remember. I did a top 10 a while back. I think the only person who is signed is Marcus Stroman accepting the Mets qualifying offer. I don't think any of the other top free agents, the 10 that I ranked, is actually signed, and Stroman was a different sort of case. So Nelson Cruz, he's still a free agent too. I mean, there's so many guys. I just want to see some stuff happen. Like that's what I want. It's I don't want it to all happen. I just don't what I don't want because there's going to be continued uncertainty about I can say it again. Universal DH, the schedule, the start of the season. There's even stuff about that now. Is it going to start on time? Which all these things, which are legitimate questions, but it feels like it's just going to drag on to uncertainty for weeks and weeks to come before they're forced to come to a decision. I would just like to not have the first few months of January, or the first few weeks. I'd rather not have the first, 25 days of January go by without anything notable happening in the baseball world. That's my wish. That is my wish is that I do not look back on January 25th or whenever we're, on whatever Tuesday that is in, near the end of January. And we're saying, well, nobody's signed and we have no answers to any of our questions. That would bother me. That's my wish is that we get something to talk about in the baseball world sometime pretty soon.
That is a very reasonable wish. All
Thank
right. My final one
you. Mm.
is very simple. I want Blake Snell traded.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm
I
intrigued.
am I am sick and tired of this man being part of the Rays science experiment. He is too good.
Science experiment.
He is too good for that. I got no issue with
Mm-hmm.
them trying to win that way. They're the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm all for trying to do things different to give yourself an edge. It's not a fundamental issue with the way the Rays approach baseball.
Mm-hmm.
But you are not getting the most out of him, and he is not able to maximize his value when you're working with each other because they won't let him pitch into the seventh inning. Usually they won't let him pitch into the sixth inning. And they're
Right.
not going to change it because of what happened in the World Series. There's no way.
No. No.
So
They're
let's
not going to
just
change
make
the philosophy.
everybody happier because they don't need him. You can find another guy. No, you can't go find another Blake Snell. But they're good at developing pitching. They've got other pitchers. They can find a way to still be good and use this philosophy and get guys that fit this philosophy better.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and part of this is right. They're not paying top dollar for him, so it's not inefficient at this point.
Right.
But ultimately, it's going to get to a point in the future where it's just not worth paying him because he's not that valuable to you because you're only going to use him for 4 2/3.
Right.
So might as well do it now while his value's at an all-time high. Let him really compete for Cy Young's year in and year out. And I know he's still able to do that in a traditional season. But let him really show what he can do. Let another team get more out of him because they're still going to pay you the same amount in trade value. Maybe you don't get the an actual fair return because you usually lose your trades for stars. But it's
Right.
not like they're going to say, "Oh, we're not going to pay market value for him because he only was pitching 5 1/3 innings." Everybody knows how good this guy is. He showed it in the World Series. He showed it all last season. He's shown it for multiple seasons. Get him out of there. Let him be on a team that fully appreciates him.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really curious. I mean, I don't think this is a bold um take. Like I don't disagree with you at all. I would be curious to see, because you're right in the sense that the Rays, this is what they do, is they develop guys. Like they're not gonna, I'm not saying that they're not gonna take a, that they're going to be able to, like you said too, they're not gonna be able to replicate Blake Snell internally. Um but this is what they do, right? They
Right.
develop great pitchers. They eventually leave. They don't usually keep these great pitchers that they develop into their mid 30s, right? They don't sign, there's like maybe that initial contract that's team friendly that pays them a good bit, but not that much. All right,
Yep.
when Snell becomes a free agent in a couple years, he'll be, I'm not sure about his age. He'll be, around 30 somewhere in that range. They're not going to keep him then, right? They're
No.
never competing for him then. One thing I'm interested about Snell, and this is sort of and because the Rays have become so much on this philosophy more recently, right? They've embraced it even more. Is we just haven't seen. I'm curious. I wonder. So let's say he's traded to the. I don't know where he gets traded. What if he gets the chance to? I'm not sure. We haven't seen him go deep in games a lot, so
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting because we don't know necessarily that he can do it.
Right.
There's some pitchers who can't really do that, and there's always the chance that he can, but also we're never going to know unless we see it.
Right.
Right. And, it is interesting because, right, there are some places he could go. Let's say he's traded to the Dodgers. I'm not so sure he gets a chance to go that much deeper for the Dodgers either in games. It sort of depends on where you go and
Mm-hmm.
how much you value, or how much you are valued by your team.
Right.
Not how much, but in the way you're valued in
Yeah.
your system, right?
Right.
If he ends up on the Dodgers, right, with Kenta Maeda and Hyunjin Ryu all those years, they never let them go very deep
And they
in
don't have
games.
to ride him because you've got Kershaw and you've got Bueller.
Right. If he gets traded to some team where he's like all of a sudden he's the ace,
Right.
which I'm trying to think of where and who
That's
knows.
what I want.
Yeah, as he gets to go somewhere he could be the guy and
Yeah.
go 7 innings time
And
and time
let's just
again.
see what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see what he could do because he has a Cy Young award. He's clearly a
Right.
very talented pitcher, but I would be very interested to see what happens if he gets the chance to go deep and just be that guy for a full season for a team. What we get from him. Uh, so yeah, that's a good one. I would be very intrigued. I share that wish. That would be very fun.
So there you have it. Christmas Santa. That's what we want. Sorry, not Christmas Santa. Baseball Santa.
There you go.
There are not multiple holiday Santas. Santa, that is what we are asking for you when it comes to the baseball world. Take another break right here. When we come back, close out the show. We're gonna wonder what are we doing, and then we're gonna tell you what we're watching. You are watching 110 Daily on the 110 Sports Network.